Hello, it's Pete here again. Thanks for joining me. Remember a little while ago we did an overview for Tim Holtz' brand new collection of 5 A5 3D embossing folders. Well, today we're going to be looking at this one. This one's called Botanical, and we're going to be looking at a nice technique. Might be similar to something you've seen before, but this one's just a little bit different. So let's get going. So here we are. This is our Botanical folder. We talked about this one before in the overview, and how, there's no real repeat of this pattern is completely unique all over. And it was a smaller folder, it was half the size of this, but now when you bring it to A5, there are so many more possibilities for using a folder of this size. You can see I've used my gilding wax today, my luster wax, Sizzix luster wax. But before we get on with the technique, I just want to show you some of the others in case you missed the overview. This one is lumber. This is an old favorite of mine. Well, when it was in the smaller format, but now it's bigger. Oh, unbelievable. This one is typewriter again. So much unique detail there. This one is entangled, lovely, sort of almost kind of, I don't know, sort of arts and crafts, very vintagey pattern, that one. And then finally, for those of you who love it, industrial and grungy, this one is foundry. But today, it's all about this one, the lovely Botanical folder. And I'm gonna make a box. Okay, we're gonna make the lid of a box. And I wanna show you quite a cool technique with this folder. So, this piece of card is the size of the folder basically, and but before I emboss this, what I'm going to want to do is make all my creases and my tabs. So you can see the way this folds up. This is going to form a box lid. Now I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, well, surely when you emboss it, those lines are going to disappear, and you know what? To a degree they do. But they're still there, and it makes it much easier to do that prior to embossing, believe it or not. And of course, I did all this with my scoring board and trimmer. If you haven't seen a scoring board and trimmer and what it's capable of, then go to the Sizzix website and check out the scoring board and trimmer hub. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. Let's take my embossing folder. Let's go through, and that's foundry. There she is. That is Botanical, and you can see the wonderful depth. I'll try and get this in the light. The depth of the detail. I've seen A5 folders. I've seen A5 3D folders. I've not seen anything with this level or depth of detail before. It really is quite something. So before I pop this through, I am going to spritz now, just with clean water. What that does, I say this all the time, but it is very important to know. What that does is it allows the fibers to stretch. And when they stretch, you get a much deeper, cleaner, crisper emboss. And I will keep saying it with my dying breath because it's very, very important to note. So let's pop that into the folder thus, and then I'm going to use now the last time we did a Tim Holtz video, we were using the little sidekick machine. We're not going to get away with the sidekick machine today. So it's switch time. And the great thing is now it's a 3D embossing folder. So the instructions always tell me the sandwich I need to make. So 3D multi-level, there it is. So I need the folder with the card and one cutting plate. If I, for whatever reason, use 2 cutting plates, then the machine would simply reject the sandwich because it would be too much. So it wouldn't jam the machine. It'd be absolutely fine. So we'll run that through. Now, that goes to the other end, and then there's only one other button on here. There's the on button, on and off button, and then the one that reverses direction. And that's what we're doing with the 3D folder. I always like to put it through twice. The truth is, once should be enough, especially with these folders and this machine, but I don't know, maybe it's just habit, but twice always gives me what I need, which is extra depth and dimension. So there we are, that's it. And you can see those creases remained. Okay, so that's going to give me my box lid. Now we're going to do this one more time, but this time folks, I'm going to bring in some Distress Oxides. I've got pumice stone, weathered wood, and rusty hinge. Now you can see the difference between the pumice stone and the weathered wood there. And the rusty hinge I'm just going to be using for details. So straight away, it's kind of an industrial look. There are ways of applying this to the embossing folder, but what I'm going to do today is go direct like this, and I'm going to press into it. And the lines that the edge of the folder creates. Now, with a lot of techniques, people shy away from that. They would rather pick up the ink with a brayer and apply the ink over the folder accordingly. But for what I want to do today, these lines, that's absolutely, see, you can probably see there the way that's picking up the little individual lines. So this is the lighter of the two. This is pumice stone. So we started with weatherwood. Make sure we get plenty on there like that. Pumice stone, weatherwood. And finally, rusty hinge. Now this one, not so much. Just little bits here and there, okay? What we're looking for is we're trying to get the effect of tin. Old tin. So those three should do the trick nicely. Now, there you go. Let's apply some water to that as we did before. But here's something. So this is just plain water. I'm going to spritz onto this folder over the ink, and it's going to pool. You can see already I just caught some there, just a little bit, not too much. Don't go too crazy. We don't want to flood this, just little bits, because it is going to break it up slightly and give us a very, very different effect. So let's bring that down, pop that into the sandwich like so, bring my machine back in, and there we are. Open it up and run it through the machine. Now this time, because I'm using the embossing folder like a printing plate to transfer the ink, I'm just going to run it through once. As I said, once should be more than enough, especially with the pressure given by the wonderful switch machine. Not just the switch machine, the Holtz switch machine, but oh my word, look at that. Look at where I sprayed there. See how it's pooled in certain places? That will get darker as it lightens. Just that area there. But that is what I'm after. It's sort of a light grey ghosted effect on the background. And that spritzing made all the difference. But you can also see areas where the lines of the folder are still in there. Now, as I said, we are going for kind of old tin, or an old tin box, as it were. So what I need to do now, and we looked at all the samples. These are my luster waxes. These are the four that I've been using throughout, okay? And let's have a look. There's rose gold. Best to look at them upside down. That's silver. That's gold, so you can see the difference there. And this one is charcoal. Okay, I was referring to that as graphite before, but it's actually charcoal. So this one, obviously, it is the rose gold to the silver as the rose gold is to the gold. It's a deeper, richer sort of grey. That's the one that I'm going to be using today. So, and what you want alongside that, I've got a scrap of black card here. Okay. And it's a good idea to have that to hand, because when I want to get some on my finger. Now, one thing I need to say about these is, as with all things these days, cosmetics and things like this, this is petroleum based, so there can be a skin reaction. I've not ever heard of that happening in my experience, and it's never bothered me. But if in doubt, always test, as we say, on part of the skin, and where, you know, if you've got some cotton gloves or something and you want to use those, then by all means please do. But I'm going to go straight onto this now. I'm going very light indeed. I'm just picking up the top detail. I'm just working over the parts that are embossed, but I'm rubbing into there like that. And just so it just means I've got a thin layer from here. So I haven't got any big blobs on my fingers. Okay. And that is very, very important, because that is the last thing on earth that you need. Now, when you're working with this, I'm working with the charcoal here. You could add a little bit, just a touch of rose gold, just in certain areas, not all over, but just certain areas. And it gives it, and I'm going to show you an example where I've done just that in a second. But we're going around and we're going to complete this. Let's do that one in the center. Let's finish off. See how that brings that lovely detail, the top detail, to life. So we're working on one of the properties of 3D folders. There's your base level underneath, so that's where the ink was transferred to. And then on the embossed part itself, we're just picking out the very high points of the emboss, not the whole thing. So the rest of it remains pure black card as before. So we just keep going around, and you can see the difference that makes when we get that lovely sheen going on. But I want to bring in something that I made earlier, because obviously once that's dried, once it's been creased. Now can you see where I've used a little bit of the rose gold as well, just to pick out little areas. It's gorgeous, but the fact that it's a three-dimensional object as well makes the difference. And this one is made using the lumber, and this one made using the foundry. And because you've got an A5 folder, it gives you, it's double the size, but it doesn't just double the creative possibilities, it trebles, it quadruples. There's so much more you can do with a larger embossing folder. And this one, well, this one has been botanical. There you go, that was a lot of fun. You know what, and the great thing about a technique like that is it always turns out slightly different. And that imperfection is what makes it so special. And I didn't get too mucky doing that one as well. If you want to find more inspiration for these wonderful folders, remember there are 5 of them, then go to YouTube, Instagram, all the usual places, Sizzix.com, Sizzix.co.uk. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon.